Jeff Lebby, the next head coach, and it's actually announced by Mississippi State, so I feel better about this one because, the way the A&M went
Oh
yesterday,
my
I don't
God.
feel completely comfortable with all that going on. But Jeff Lebby, the OC at Oklahoma, formerly at Ole Miss, the son-in-law, which some people do not realize, of Art Briles, is the next head coach of Mississippi State. Joe, I got to admit, I love Jeff Lebby. I'm a Jeff Lebby apologist. I've been a Jeff Lebby apologist. I think this is a great hire from Mississippi State. I think this is the most Dan Mullen move that you can make, and they made it. Oklahoma is 4th in the country in total offense, 3rd in scoring offense, 6th in passing offense, 10th and on third downs, 3rd in first down offense. And Joe, they're one of the better teams in the country in the red zone. Look, Oklahoma, for what it's worth, okay, did not have a lot of pieces that stayed at Oklahoma when Lincoln Riley headed out west to South California, University or USC. They didn't stay. The quarterbacks were gone. Wide receivers went in the portal. O-linemen went in the portal. They didn't have a lot of top-tier talent, I should say, on the offensive side. He goes out and gets a 5-star quarterback. I don't think he can do that, okay, in Mississippi State, but he's been in these type of situations before. Joe, look how they recruited and how they did things at UCF. He was a big part of that. He's been under Heupel. He's been under Lane. He's been under the Briles. Dude, he might be one of the – he has, from an offensive tutelage resume, name a guy that's been under Heupel, Kiffin, and Briles that could have a better offensive resume than this guy. He knows the state of Mississippi. He is a good recruiter. He's going to want to go in there and recruit. I do think he's going to get some weapons at Mississippi State. Now, do I think that he will ever be a 9-10 win team? No. I don't think that he can get them there.
No, absolutely not.
But can he start replicating some of the things that Lane has done? Can he replicate some? Because he saw the formula under Lane in that state. And I will tell you something. People think Mississippi State is just some and they are some rundown, poor old school. Joe, I saw them spend $45 million for a baseball complex. They got money. Okay, they will spend money. The question has been, and the thing has been, they have not had a coach that can get them to spend that money. I like Jeff Lebby a lot. I hope that this works out for him. I think that a lot of people are going to get to a place when he's now the head coach, they're going to say to themselves, look, man, I do not want to play this dude. I do not want to play because they can. I guarantee you that they're going to be able to score on teams and you'll be like, man, don't overlook them. I love Jeff Lebby a lot. I've known Jeff a little while. It's no secret how I feel about him, but I think it's a great hire for Mississippi State.
My initial gut reaction, I was a fan of the hire, and then I kind of let it ruminate. I let it sit for a little bit, and I thought about it.
Don't break my heart.
I don't hate it. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is an F hire. I'm just not super in love with it, and it's what you just talked about. The ceiling for him at Mississippi State really is 7 wins, and sometimes you hope with these hires that you grab somebody that's been at a G5 program, and I thought that was the direction that they should have gone in, somebody who has head coaching experience, who's worked at programs that required some building and helped get them to a competitive level. I'm a little worried because he does not have any head coaching experience. That's where I'm coming from here. I understand that there is a lot of offensive production and prowess that has come from Lebby in the 2 teams that he was with. And what you said about him having been at Ole Miss, I think that that's a really good point. I completely agree with that notion. His experience at Ole Miss is going to help him because he has been around and in the state and understands how recruiting works in the state. I'm just super, super wary because of this, because of not having experience being a head coach. This stuff is so hit or miss when we hire coordinators. It's so boom or bust. It's so high risk. It's high reward to an extent, but it's very, very high risk because you're assuming and hoping that through osmosis that the traits of other coaches have worn off onto him and that he knows how to control a locker room. It is such a different dynamic to go from being an offensive mastermind to then being a man running a roster, running a locker room. And we've seen in the history of college football so many times these offensive gurus swing and miss. Like I think so much about Cliff Kingsbury. That's one that comes to mind. And Lincoln Riley's struggling right now.
But that's different.
Why is it different though? Lincoln Riley,
because they don't have that. Can I tell you what? Art Briles and Lane are in his corner. The relationship that Lane Kiffin has with Jeff Lebby, people do not understand. Now, I know that they're bitter rivals, and I get that. There's not a better friend to Lane Kiffin in this business than Jeff Lebby. Not one. And your father-in-law is Art Briles. He can look, Cliff Kingsbury didn't have that, nor did Cliff Kingsbury care about having that.
That's understandable. But what I'm getting at here with Kingsbury and with Kiffin, or not with Kiffin, what I'm specifically talking about here with Lincoln Riley is that he took over Bob Stoops' situation and was able to produce success because there was a foundation built. And then he goes to USC where there is no foundation, and we're seeing that the cutesy offensive shit doesn't really work that well. I just have this fear that when you've got these guys that are so offensively brilliant, they don't know how to manage the other aspect of being a head coach because they get so caught up in the play calling. And we just saw Jimbo F up as bad as he did because he got so caught up in the offensive play calling stuff.
But that's not Jeff Lebby, though. You can't assume.
I get that.
I mean, now let me say this: are you wrong? No, but I don't think it's fair to assume that Jeff Lebby, you can just put that label on him. Joe, I think this is a B+ hire for them. This is a B+ hire because Joe, it doesn't matter. Joe, they're a 5-7 football team now. That team, okay, I might add, who was run down, okay, putrid, and God bless it, okay, under Mike Leach, God rest his soul, passed away. Joe, Arizona's a top 15 football team. Top 15. This Mississippi State team in triple overtime beat Arizona at home with, I will tell you, the worst head coach that Mississippi State has had. Jeff Lebby will not be anywhere remotely close to what we just saw with Zach Arnett. Not even close. And let me tell you another thing. Under Dan Mullen, they've done this before. Mississippi State has literally gone out and hired a coordinator, the hottest named coordinator, offensive-minded in the country, and it's had success. There are double standards for programs. There are different standards for programs. Mississippi State's not wanting him to come in here and get the 9 wins on a consistent basis.
It's fair.
If he wins 7.5 games a year, okay? If he wins 7.5, they're happy as a lark. If he wins the Egg Bowl every other year, they're happy as a freaking lark. It's a different standard. This is a stepping stone for Jeff Lebby. It has always been a stepping stone program. The only place it's not a stepping stone program is for a guy like Mike Leach, who, let's call it what it is. God rest his soul. Mike didn't care about winning natties. Mike wanted to go in there, be a head coach, win 7-8 games a year, and don't care about anything. But I'm going to bring up a point about him and Lane right now. Look at this. Lane Kiffin just tweeted. Welcome home, Coach Leb.
Oh my God.
Back to the other sip. And this is the photo. Look at the photo.
Oh my God, that is so disrespectful. I know that they're boys. I know that that's hilarious. That's absolutely hilarious.
He would not do that, okay, if they weren't that close. He's seen his father-in-law. He's seen Kiffin. He's seen, let's call it, and I'll tell you this too. Joe, do you really think Brent Venables was running the team? Oklahoma literally just did it. Oklahoma went out and hired a coordinator. Now, it was a defensive dude. They just went out and hired a coordinator. Joe, they're a 10-2 football team.
Wait, but there's a really massive difference between a 39-year-old Jeff Lebby and Brent Venables, who had been a long-standing, very, very long-standing high-level defensive coordinator. It was every year that we would talk about and say, when is Brent Venables going to take a head coaching job? What was that, for 5 or so years? He was qualified to take a head coaching job very early on. I'm just a little wary that after, what is it? Let's call it what it is. 3 years of being a high-level OC, and last year was pretty questionable offensively. They weren't great. He's got 2 really good years I know I'm not. He's got 2 really good years as an OC at Ole Miss and at Oklahoma this season. And I think that the production is very notable. And I also appreciate the fact that, and I've said this when we previewed and talked about the firing of Arnett, that when you're facing off against teams in the SEC that are going to be a lot more athletically gifted, you need somebody that is offensively creative to find ways to steal football games. And I think that Jeff Lebby can produce that. I'm just really worried about the floor. That's where I come down to here. I think that
they just saw their floor.
But
I think that
Lebby is a much better coach than Zach Arnett and can prove to be one. But I think that there is a lower floor than 5-7 if this does not go well, because he's never been a head coach.
Strongly disagree. Neither was Zach Arnett.
But how many guys after Mike Leach's passing really left that team?
Not a lot. They didn't have any more guys hit the portal than what any other school in the country do.
Yeah. My point is that Arnett drove a 7-5 team into the ground and turned them into a 5-7 team because he couldn't manage the roster.
Arizona. And I'll tell you this: that game on Thursday night, Jeff Lebby's not losing that game. He's scoring more than 7 points.
I don't disagree with that. I think that they find a way to win that game.
You got a dude that can win some games. South Carolina. Dude, they are built in right now to where they can get wins that they had no business losing them.
That's fair.
Mississippi State has more talent than South Carolina right now.
I'm in agreement with a lot of logic that you've provided here. I'm just a hair lower. I think that this is a B- because I'm just worried about the floor. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to text Jeff and tell him you think he's ass. All right.
Wouldn't be the first time you did that.
Well, you did have an SEC coach literally, which I sent you a screenshot. You literally had an SEC offensive coordinator not be happy with you.
Whatever, man.
Whatever.